So no, I'm not an elder, but I am here representing the elders. So thank you. It's an honour to be asked here today to provide a welcome for the Symposium for people living with MS, their carers, families, and honouring indeed World MS Day. I would also like to pay respects to Rosie Brown, who is the administrator for the Tasmanian Aboriginal Elders Council. For people who don't know, that's an organisation in Launceston and is statewide. And it is through her and the elders that I've been given permission to provide the welcome today. I'm more of an auntie than an elder. Thank you to Jan Lowe for this invitation and the board members of MS Limited. And also it's great to see Minister Jackie Petrusma here today as well. 2 to 3 minutes they often give me for a welcome. Nah, it's not going to happen. It's too good of an opportunity for an educator to share some learning. So a welcome to country for me is much more than a welcoming to the naming of a place. The naming of a country and the traditional owners of Milatina, which in our language means country. The country this building sits on and that we all gather on, walk on and work on. It's a welcome into the stories of, in fact, the oldest living culture on earth. The stories that sit for us all in the land, in the sea and in the sky. The stories of the Palawa people, Tasmanian Aboriginal people of Lutruwita of Tasmania. A welcome to you all into these stories of struggle, of history, but importantly of survival, and a celebration of a thriving Aboriginal culture and community in Tasmania. So who is welcoming you? I'd like to say I used to be a model in the US, but that probably won't work for today. But it's important for me, for you to know who is welcoming you to country. So not just the stories that sit within country, but what I like to honour is the stories that sit within the hearts of each and every one of us. The sharing of stories are important to me, but the listening to stories is just as important. These stories for me and in my work and in my personal life weave a basket of shared understanding and learning. So what do I do? Professionally, I worked for the Aboriginal Children's Centre for 24 years, a strong cultural program of the Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre. Now I'm the Loprena Centre manager we call ourselves a small organisation with a big tequila, not tequila, which in Tasmanian Aboriginal means heart. So we're a little organisation in Glenorchy, part of a national organisation called the Uniting Aboriginal Islander Christian Congress. And our aim is really to embrace everybody in the story of Loprena, of First Peoples in Tasmania, but with Second Peoples in the story. UIRCC is committed to social justice, community development, education and learning. So that's a bit about what I do, but it's important for you to know who I am. I'm from one of those big country families from down at Cygnet, big family of 8, you know the ones, had nothing but had everything. So I grew up with deep connections to the southeast of Tasmania through my grandfather's grandmother, great warrior Fanny Cochrane Smith. I've been lucky that the passing on of those values have been part of my family and part of my life. Aboriginal ways of knowing and being also, but values of acceptance, goodwill, shared learning, family, community, and 2 good things we often forget, compassion and empathy. This symposium is indeed dear to my heart, my tequila. Growing up with, and having the privilege of growing up with a sister who was not born with the gift to speak or to walk. So if I talk too long, it's because I see speech as a real gift in the process. Sadly, we lost my sister 11 years ago from this physical world, but for me, nobody really goes anywhere. And to watch my mother struggle for her rights and her dignity and her access to education is indeed part of my story. So my cultural story and what I call my Belinda story is part of who I am. Belinda gave me the gift of unconditional love, of strength and understanding of acceptance. But importantly, and I think this resonates with the reading I've done on MS in this symposium, the need to give a voice to those who do not always have a voice. Hence the reason I never take speech as a given, but indeed a gift. That's a little bit about who I am and who's welcoming you, and I could stand here for an hour, but I'll probably get banged off. So I really do need to explain to you this logo. And I was saying to Jen before I come in, there's always a story, the stories within each of us, and why don't we just connect them and we can find that they do have a common ground. The logo was designed by a wonderful 19-year-old artist that we have at La Prena, and her name's Grace, and she has my permission to share this story. So Grace has done a lot of art at La Prena and around La Prena, and in September last year, as a 19-year-old, was diagnosed with MS. So being here gives me a bit of goosebumps that we can join all those stories together, and so I'm passionate about hearing the stories and having more support around that. On the back of my T-shirt, walking together, connecting stories. This whole design and this whole image, our logo, our family violence launch, which is about to come up, all done by this strong woman who at 19 has been diagnosed with MS. So that's an important part of, and the logo means joining together our stories of strengths and vulnerabilities. And I'm sure that resonates with everybody. I should do now what I got asked to come for. But that's important to me, that it's not just the naming of a place, that we really do connect on a personal level. Yapalingana. Hello and welcome to the homelands of the Muwanina people, the traditional owners of the land we gather on. I honour and pay respects to them and to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the current and continuing custodians. I honour and pay respects and bring with me the wisdom and knowledge of elders, past, present and emerging. I acknowledge and pay respects to other First Nations people who may be gathered here today, and welcome on behalf of my ancestors, all first and second people here to the symposium. Warranta, we, takamana, stand, ralla, use those words, they're powerful. We stand strong when we all takamana, stand, ralla, together. When we listen with our tequila, our heart, to each other's stories. May the sharing of all stories bring you all strength, connectedness and hope. May the old people of Luntalangana, which is in the north, Clark Island, Putalina in the south, Oyster Cove, and when you have a little break out there, look up at the richness and beauty and strength of Kununyi, Mount Wellington, for vision and inspiration. May they all watch over you all as you Kāni speak over the next day. Lastly, and not leastly, I pay respects to those who live with MS, for their families and their carers, and for the stories that you may share to bring a voice of support, understanding and strength. Nairi Nina Tu, which in our language means thank you. May your stories and your Kāni go well, and may we all stay connected to the stories of country and to each other. Thank you. You can clap really loudly now. Thanks.